be operating at temperature and pressure conditions where normal metals do not work. And therefore, the development of these new components is a necessary component in order to move into that kind of efficiency regime. So at the end, what I'd like to do is to very quickly recapitulate the kinds of thoughts that I'd like to leave with you. We are facing a situation in which getting every extra ton of energy is both difficult and expensive. There are a large number of areas, power generation, air conditioning, lighting, agricultural pumps, cars and trucks, where there are technological opportunities for greatly enhancing energy efficiency. However, there are also challenges in achieving those technological targets because of a variety of reasons, cost competitiveness being one of them, but in many cases the most important one. And therefore, what we need to do is to position ourselves in the market so that tomorrow, as these situations become more and more preferable to the use of the efficient technologies, these newer technologies are there to occupy the market. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mathur. I think yesterday we were deliberating about the scarcity, the security, non-availability, the uncertainty, and today is the day we have started with a ray of hope, ray of light, and a specific direction, specific action plan by which we shall be able to move towards energy security. I would request you to ask question maximum 3. I'm sorry because we have got next meeting or next session to be started. 3. Thank you.
So my name is, hello. So my name is Dilip Shamajpati. I am from CESC. So I want to ask you, what is the fate of the BLY project? This is number 1. And number 2 is, sir, a few officers of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, they are trying to revive the scheme in a different way. What is the future or possibility of reviving the scheme in your thought? And another point I want to mention, that you were telling that due to air conditioning, 150 days the power stations are only loaded, and rest of the period these are not loaded. But I think that when heating is required, then some 80 to 100 days of heating is also required, and so out of 365 days, I think 250 days the power stations are loaded. So it is not that bad scene what you are thinking of. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The BLY program, as you well know, was developed on the business model that there would be an investor who would come, invest in the CFLs, provide them to households at 15 rupees, and then earn the carbon credits that accrue because these bulbs used less energy and therefore there was less emissions. And then it would sell these carbon credits and recover the balance of costs and profits. When this was designed, the price of carbon credits was in the 12 to 15 euros range. And what we had computed was that this business model makes sense if the price falls as low as $8 per ton, or at that time about nearly 7 euros. The price of the carbon credit is now less than $1 a carbon credit, a ton of CO2 emissions. So clearly the business model is no longer viable. And therefore, with the business model basis being knocked out, this program is going nowhere. Nevertheless, this does not mean that the need for efficient lighting has disappeared. So then we have started thinking, what do we do? So now, one, as I mentioned, there has been a large-scale transformation to CFLs in the country anyway. 60% of sockets in the country today have CFLs and only 40% have bulbs. What we want to do now is to see if we can use mechanisms to push LED-based products which use half as much energy as the CFL products. And the business model now being used is that these are provided to consumers through the distribution companies, for example, CSC. What would happen is that you and the consumer would therefore see a benefit, and that saving is used to pay back the investment on the bulbs. Now, this is a very simple way of saying it. Obviously, the financial mechanisms are much larger. There's also the key issue, who becomes the first investor? I mean, who pays for it? If you do it, you'll have to go to the regulator and ask for a tariff increase, which is a non-starter. So what we are doing is that through the new public sector undertaking that we have created, Energy Efficiency Services Limited, is to help provide the initial capital through which this kind of a program could work. But what it also implies is that there's a much larger involvement of the electricity distribution company in this program, including the commercial involvement, than was in the Bachat Lamp Yojana. And I take your point about the fact that the electricity is also used for heating, and therefore there is a much longer period for which it is used. It is a deemed benefit, that's right.
So previously you have an idea of introducing the energy auditors, and that has already made a very great success for making the industry habituated with the energy auditing. But now you are talking about, today I listened to you, is some sort of paradigm shift of excellence center. That means the product development and technology development. Now, like in two areas, space and defense, where we never get any support from advanced countries, we have proved our country that it successfully, we can develop our own product. With respect to the energy efficiency issues also, we have that particular potential if we force the country to develop their own product, I believe.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two is, do you have any, structured plan of involving the expertise available in academic institutes at different localities? Number two, whether you can have some regional centers which not only generate the knowledge or technology, but also will support the local industry, their needs. Yeah. And finally, I just want to mention one more thing. You have mentioned about only the energy efficiency issue. Obviously, that's your mission program. But sometimes the environmental issue contradicts, or rather has a direct conflict between the efficiency and the environment. So these has to be taken care of in a total concept of sustainability. So how do you just answer?
Sure. First of all, I'll agree with you on the issue of the trade-off between environment and efficiency, and CFLs is a prime example of where that trade-off occurs. Which is also one of the reasons why we want to push LEDs much sooner than we had. But coming back to your main question, this is a program which is still under development. But at the heart of it is exactly what you said, creating the kind of, I don't like to use the word centers because it implies that there is a building, there's brick and mortar and so on, but the point is the expertise that exists in universities, in research institutions, is used obviously to provide, but also, as you rightly said, to help support local industry in developing new products. So industry has got there is a pull because we tell them, listen, we are creating a market for efficient. But on the other side, there is also this support And we provide the financial support to universities so that the universities in turn can provide the support to industry. This is the broad contours of the program. The program has not yet been approved. It's in development. What I would very much like is, even if you can email me ideas on this, on how it can be structured, and also ideas on the kinds of products. I gave a list of products. That's not the end of it. There may be 5 more, there may be 6 more. We would like these kinds of suggestions.
Only one question.
Excuse me, sir. Can I ask a question?
Good morning.
He has got the privilege of having the speaker. Sorry. Yeah.
Good morning, please. My name is Natarajan, ex-Tata Steel. On product standardization you spoke about and upgradation, we in India depend on Bureau of Indian Standards, and I have had some association with them long time back. They take their own time for upgradation and all that. But the type of work you are doing, and you spoke of interactions, you must be depending. Would you like to make your observations? Because if we all depend on them, British Bureau of Indian Standards, how things happen. In fact, your success would certainly depend on their approach and upgradation and things like that. Thank you.
Mr. Natarajan, you have put me in a very strange situation of having to comment on a fellow institution on which we depend a great deal. The BIS standards form the basis on which we do the testing. They are the people who say, you know, if efficiency is X, how do we find it is X? It has to be done in a lab. How does the lab do it? It is done according to protocol. That protocol is the Indian standard. Yes, there are 2 issues. The first is the testing protocol standard keeping date with time? When we did it with fans, how do you find it? How much air does it give? So there was an anemometer, and that was in one end of the room, and the standard said there will be a telescope at the other end of the room and you would have a look at it. Now I myself did it 3 times and found 3 different answers. So moving to electronic anemometers make great sense. But again, the point that you said, it takes time for the Bureau of Indian Standards to be able to do it. The second issue is who can accredit and certify. Under the BIS system, it is a relatively small, either they do it themselves or there's a relatively small list of people and labs who can do it. That's again an infrastructure that greatly needs to be enhanced. So we recognize these issues. We also recognize that at a certain point, our pace is dependent on them. But, you know, we are not out to do their job. They have done their job, they do their job well, we will work with them.
Excuse me?
I am extremely sorry.
Last question.
Leave early. We have to manage the time today. So, and with this conclave this year, we have launched a special initiative through which we would be acknowledging and facilitating the achievements of a young energy researcher for his or her outstanding work at the grassroots level. In 2013, the Bengal Chamber Young Energy Researcher Award goes to Sri Senthil A. Kumar, an outgoing student in the Masters of Public System Management program at the Indian Institute of Social Welfare and Business Management. We are presenting the award to Senthil for his outstanding achievement in the grassroots energy technology adaptation. Let me share with you. Senthil, during his summer project, worked at Tilla Kocha, a remote unelectrified village about 26 kilometers from Ranchi. He went to Ramakrishna Mission Morabadi and met Swami Shashankananda Maharaj, the Sevak secretary of the ashram. He was guided to choose his summer project topic as he was looking for some application work that would bring direct benefits to the users. The plight of the villagers of Tilla Kocha, particularly the children, moved his heart to find a solution. He could implement it by his own efforts and resources. His friends, faculty and Ramakrishna Mission provided him with moral support and guidance whenever necessary. He identified a community center at Tillakocha, estimated the demand, designed a suitable solar photovoltaic system, purchased the major components from Kolkata, purchased some components such as sulfuric acid from the nearest market, took them to the site, fabricated and commissioned the SPV system with lights and fan. The system is working in the community center, a single room hut, and helps the children with light and little amount of air at night and other times when needed in building their character and capacity through studies, yoga and cultural program. The monks of the mission, professors of IIS WBM, who visited the site and the faculty examiners who evaluated his summer project report are all in praise for this extraordinary work. Unfortunately, Senthil is now in Bangalore and he could not make it today to this program. So on his behalf, may I request Dr. Chaudhary, B.K. Chaudhary, to please come and receive the award from Dr. Mathur.
Wonderful that a student of yours is getting it. And do congratulate Senthil on my behalf.
Thank you.
I would now directly move to the power sector CEO panel discussion, and may I request the panel member to come to the stage, please.
Be on stage.
Yep. Theme of this panel discussion today is Power in India, Growth Amidst Constraints. The focus will be on the cost of energy, reliability of energy supply, carbon emissions, regulatory compliance, energy price volatility, predictability, and the coming of age of utilities. India, as we all know, depends greatly on fossil fuel sources, mostly coal. The problem of efficiency, already elaborated by Dr. Mathur, including that of below average PLF, is omnipresent. In fact, up to December 2012, the All India thermal PLF, based on coal lignite-based thermal power stations, was down to 69% from 73% achieved in 2011-12. Added to this, the problem of availability of coal, the volatile price, the increased dependence on the import of coal are grim reminders of the fact that electricity in India is anything but sustainable. Although electricity generation from hydro plants have exceeded expectation due to improved rains, the social cost and the human displacement of high gestation period of hydel projects are bottlenecks at times. This leaves nuclear and renewable. If the former is always embroiled in controversies on safety and technology, as we heard yesterday, the latter is still governed by relative higher cost. On the brighter side, India has an installed renewable generation capacity of around 12.5%, representing almost 400% increase in the past 5 years. The renewable energy sector is seen as a great player in the grid-connected power generation, and investment in renewable energy grew by 25% last year. On the other hand, energy conservation measures can also play a significant role in securing energy future, as has been explained by Dr. Mathur. It is expected that 5 crore per megawatt will lead to energy saving amount to 44,725 crore if we are able to improve the availability and the efficiency. May I now request Dr. Mathur to please initiate the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mukherjee. It's wonderful to share the dais with two people who are at the heart of the power industry. Mr. Mishra is with PTC, which is one of the main financiers of a range of power projects, but also the premier trader of electricity. And Rajiv, one of the points that I note is that on the day when the largest demand in India occurred, which is somewhere in the middle of July, even on that day there was electricity available for sale on the exchange at 4 rupees 33 paisa. And then we have with us Mr. Mehta, who is with a power generator, with a utility, with a company that sells. And turning to him, on that day, when the maximum demand occurred and electricity was still available, so Rajiv was ready to provide it, many DISCOMs actually dropped loads. Why? This is one of the questions I would like both of you to address, and I would request Mr. Mehta to go first. The second issue which I think is important is that as we move into the future, and future is tomorrow and day after and so much, not several years in the future, as far as both generation on one side, but far more importantly on the distribution side, what is it that Mr. Mehta would like the tariff structure to look like so that he has an interest in not dropping loads? Maybe I'm already answering the question from his behalf. And then, Mr. Mehta, the other question which I have an interest as an energy efficiency person is, what are the kinds of incentives that would drive the distribution company to invest in energy efficiency? He can very well turn around and tell me, as several of his colleagues do, that we make our money from selling electricity, not from saving electricity. That means that we are reducing our turnover and therefore our profits. And Rajiv, similarly, where is it that PTC sees this in the longer run? Where is it that is the best benefits for electricity trading? Where does it bring the best benefits competitively? And again, on an energy efficiency point of view, where do you go, both on energy efficiency and renewables? So let me stop talking here and pass on the mic to Mr. Mehta. I'd also want to apologize to you. I will have to sneak out. Your city has produced the most efficient shopping mall in the country, and we are giving them a plaque of a 5-star shopping mall, the first in the country. Therefore, I apologize in advance that I would sneak out. But before I do, let me hand the mic over to Mr. Mehta, and I look forward to your comments.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Mathur. First thing, Mr. Mathur, you said, why did the utility did not buy purchase during the shutdown? Every utility that was operating in that during that crisis period was trying to isolate itself and save its own islanding system, and they were not sure whether this entire power would be available, how much would be available. So each utility tries save his own system, and that's why the isolation takes place, so that they can quickly come back and start up and then supply power. That was the first thing. Today what I am going to talk about is totally different, which I want to talk. Who brings growth? Let's first understand who brings growth. The minister mentioned the policy program. He said 200 million tons of imported coal. We are running short of coal. Coal is going to be expensive. Oil is not going to come. Gas is going to be, consumption is going to increase from 27% to 50%. So many problems we are facing. The entire country is facing. In this situation, who brings growth? And I think the most important person who brings growth and is not here today is the consumer. And I'm going to talk about the consumer. And I'm going to give you a concrete example how consumers brings growth to you. Rather than the utility telling that I will do this for you, I will do this for you, without understanding the consumer and trying to say that you will bring growth. To understand growth, we must first understand the consumer. We must first understand what the consumer expects from us. He expects a utility to give him reliable supply, economic supply, and efficiency of supply. Even if you give him a scheme saying that you buy a CFL, this is the cost. In India, the first thing that the consumer looks at it, how much do I have to pay? What is the return? Will it give me a return? What will happen if the CFL fails? Will you replace it? Will you give it to me at my doorstep? These are fundamental questions of a normal small consumers. The big consumers in the city, maybe people like all of us would say, okay, ये तो बिगड़ गया, नया लेकर आ जाओ. But if we have to cater to the consumers at large, in a large area, in the rural areas, there must be a sustainable scheme that will help the consumer at the grassroots level. The focus, some of the key issues that has been in focus is cost of electricity, cost of energy, reliability of power, and regulatory compliances. Let's look at this from a consumer point of view. How does the consumer reduce the T&D losses? He does. He does. How? I'll come to that. While there is a limited control on cost of generation, a utility can control its T&D loss to 8 to 9% in majority of the area. And imagine 1% loss reduction on the T&D loss will release more than 1200 megawatt of power in this country. So you don't have a land issue, you don't have an environmental issue, you don't have all other issues. You are releasing 1200 megawatt of power by just reducing 1%. Imagine 10% reduction. Today we are at 28% or 30%. Imagine you bring it down to 18%. You're talking about 10 to 12,000 megawatt of technical power being released. And no increase in the tariff. Cost is reduced. There are many hurdles we face. As a utility, as a generating company, I face many hurdles. Right of way, not available, land acquisition, environmental issues. But why are we not concentrating on the reforms in the distribution sector and from the consumer point of view? Let me give you an example. My experience has been with Tata Power, with Torrent, and now here in DPSC Calcutta. And I have worked in the first franchise in the country at Bhiwandi, the most notorious area in the country that was there. The losses there were 62%. In 4 years, it came down to 18%.